feel a little bit like a cyborg with all the devices that I have. Thank the organizers for inviting me and for being so understanding with my inability to speak in the Spanish language. And I hope that you all can still follow my talk regardless. Let me see where I can find the presentation. So perfect. I'm going to tell you something about the experience of my employer with actually opening up an archive. And it's about a project that is called Open Images. This is where I work. This is the Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision. Which is one of the largest audiovisual archives in Europe. And it takes care of the national audiovisual heritage in the Netherlands. We are estimated to have about 70% of that heritage in our collection, which consists of public television, public radio, but also documentary films, amateur films, music and sounds. And all of this amounts to about 1 million hours of audiovisual material that we have in our collection. We are a heritage organization, a memory institution, as it is called in this panel, that has the goal to collect, preserve, and disseminate the audiovisual heritage of the Netherlands to all kinds of different target audiences, like education, research, media creators, but also the general public. And over the course of the years that I've been with the institution, the past 7 years, we've really made some changes in the way that we have created a policy about the goal that we have in providing access. This has much more become an open access policy, where the general aim is to make everything we can available online for the public. And depending on the specific copyright situation of the material, we go beyond that. So for instance, when we know that parts of our collections are material where the copyright has expired, we explicitly make that clear with a public domain mark that indicates that there are no restrictions to the material. When we as an institution ourselves own intellectual property rights for a specific collection, which is hardly ever the case, but there are some small collections within the entire collection where we have been granted the copyright. In that case, we apply an open license that allows everybody to basically utilize the material as if it were in the public domain. The only restrictions that we ask for is that people apply open licenses to the new works and that they also attribute the creator. And in the case, and this is the case for the largest part of our collection, where there are third-party rights holders, we try to obtain permission to at least give online access for the public. For our open policy, where people can actually utilize the material for their own purposes, we have created the Open Images project, and this is the focus of my talk. This is a platform that we've created to stimulate the reuse of our archival holdings, with a platform that adheres to all kinds of layers of open philosophy. So the content that we provide through this platform is openly licensed or lies in the public domain. The platform is built with open source software and it adheres to open formats and open standards. And this is really also tying into the interoperability that was mentioned in the introduction. And it has an open API, which means that people who can program can also utilize the platform in an automated fashion. So it's not only a platform for citizens or for the public, but it's also a platform that can be utilized by machines and by computer programs. This is what it looks like when it faces the public. People can search through the archive, they can view material, they can see what license applies to the material, and they can download it to start working with it themselves and to rework it into new creations or whatever they want to do. And this is what it looks like when a machine looks at the platform. And this is the structured metadata that is offered about the collection that also allows for automated ways to repurpose this archive. And since we've been doing this project, we launched with the full 1.0 version of the platform in 2010. This reuse actually started happening on all kinds of different platforms. There are large institutionalized platforms, like for instance Europeana, that was already introduced, that has harvested the material and is republishing it on their website. So everybody that utilizes Europeana can also find material that lives on our platform, Open Images. But there are also all kinds of small applications built by amateurs, blog posts that talk about history, that utilize this material on a much more small scale. So there are all kinds of initiatives that have found their way to this platform and are repurposing it. And that was exactly our intention. And for the purpose of this talk, I want to zoom in into one of the cases. Maybe you already saw with the pictures that one of the platforms that reuses this archive is Wikimedia, or Wikipedia more specifically. And this has been a very successful reuse case for us as an institution, which really shows why we have taken the right step into moving towards this open access policy, because it's quite astonishing what has happened. So we've shared about 4,000 items through our Open Images platform that are mostly coming from a newsreel, historical newsreel collection that we own. And this is one of those small collections where we actually own the copyright, and this allows us to make this available. And a small part of that collection is also actually in the public domain, so no restrictions apply to that at all. And what is interesting is that when we started contributing this material through Open Images also to Wikimedia, is that there is not that much of moving images available on the Wikimedia project. So we've actually found a sort of niche in the open heritage field, where we are really, as a quite small country, contributing quite substantially to this open sharing of material. Because 8% of the video that is available for use on Wikipedia is contributed by us. To give an idea of how this is being reused in the Wikimedia projects, and specifically in Wikipedia, I would like to point your attention to the article about Mother's Day on Wikipedia. You can have a look at it yourself on your own device if you want. And when you go down in the depths of this article, you find a section that talks about the international history and tradition of Mother's Day. And to the right side of that, you see a newsreel of us embedded in the page that illustrates one of those international traditions, namely the tradition as it was celebrated in the Netherlands. And that's something that is part of our archive, but is now also part of this knowledge that is being shared through Wikipedia. This is just one example. To give you a more sort of wider view of the impact that this has had, one of the things that is quite remarkable is that the material that is available for reuse in Wikipedia, so the 4,000 items that I mentioned, 40% of that is actually being reused in one or more Wikipedia articles. And this is not only happening on the Dutch version of Wikipedia, which you might expect considering the national focus of our collection. No, this is actually being used in over 90 language versions of Wikipedia. So it's being utilized in an international context, and it's also useful for an international audience. And currently, when you look at all those articles that are utilizing the material, this is about 4,000 articles. Together, these articles are being viewed 4 million times a month. I see that I missed a 0 for the people that are paying attention. So 4 million times people have a look at those 4,000 articles. That doesn't mean that our material is also being viewed that much, but it is a much larger audience than we ever attract through our own website. That's something I can just humbly admit to you. And as I said, we've been doing this since 2010. And when you calculate the page views on these Wikipedia articles for the extent of it being available, it's 160 million page views that we've attracted in the last 5.5 years through these web pages. So for us, it's also very successful in terms of not only the amounts of times that people actually repurpose the material and put it in a context that they feel that the material belongs in, but it's also something that actually serves a public function, because a lot of people consult this and hopefully have an added value through that experience when things are illustrated with cultural heritage. But, and there's the big but, and also the big challenge that we have as institutions. As I said in the beginning, we have 1 million hours of material. What we can share openly in the current legal framework is only 0.0% of our entire collection. It's 150 hours of audiovisual material. And as you have seen, that material is being reutilized a lot. But the potential is enormous, because if we could only make available 1% of our collection openly, imagine what would happen then. Imagine if all kinds of other institutions would do that. And with that, I would like to close my presentation about our case, and thank you for your attention.